Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. You guys ever heard of emerging markets? Usually it's referred to stocks, emerging markets like, international emerging markets like China was years ago. But what are the emerging markets of tennis and tennis rackets? Stay tuned. Okay, so emerging markets of tennis rackets. What is the growing segment of tennis rackets? Well, the number one segment that I can see right now is the 98 segment. As I've probably told you, everybody's making some type of 98. Let's look at the wall real quick here. We got Aero VS, right, in 98. I don't have it here, but we got this 500 in a 98 tour. We got the Boom Pro. We got the Boom MP, E-Zone 98. We know Strikes are 98s. We know V-Cores 98s. Where are my blades? My blades are hiding. 98s. I feel like every company is going to come out with a 98 now. But why is that? Well, I explained it in another video already. So it's more control. It's for that high-level player, because that high-level player doesn't want a 100 square inches because it's a little too powerful for them. They rather tone it down and get a little extra weight. But what else is an emerging market in tennis? Now, let me see now. Back, I want to say it's been about 7 to 10 years now. They used to make a 107 in this. It was called a Radical OS at one time, or a Radical 107. It was basically meant for, Andre Agassi, and now he's kind of retired. They actually nixed that racket. So they stopped making the Radical OS. But I want to say in recent years and moving forward, I see everybody else making an OS now. So I would not be surprised if Radical came back in like an oversized 107 on a 10.2 to 10.5 kind of a size. Because, Dunlop made one in that CX200 oversized that's actually been doing very well. We know that Pure Drive makes a 107. Wilson makes that Blade 104. The Strike will be coming out with a racket to compete with that. Yonex, E-Zones make a 105 and a 108. They haven't included it into the V-Core line yet, but the E-Zone line, which is supposed to be a more controlled line, has, like I said, a 105 and a 108. So in that mid-level control racket, the bigger heads are coming. So this is kind of a take back, because if you think about it, back in the 80s into the 90s, 110s were popular. Prince Graphite 110. They made a Pro Staff 110 that wasn't that popular. When Agassi went from Prince Graphite 110 to Donné, right? They made him an oversize. Then he switched over to the Radical OS. So there was a market back then. The market kind of went away. And now I see it as an emerging market now. So we got 102s, 105s, 104s, 107s. I feel like I've sold a lot of 107s and 110s in the Pure Drive. in the last couple years more than I have in prior years. And then I feel like, I sold a lot of CX 200 oversizes this year too. So definitely oversize and control is the name of the game, and that people, are looking for that now. They want control yet a slightly bigger head to compensate for the lack of power that those rackets typically only have. So emerging markets in tennis, look for those coming soon. They're going to get a little bigger, but stay in that slightly lighter weight with a slightly thinner beam. We now know where rackets are going. Where is the accompaniment coming from in strings now? So for some reason, I guess because people always complain that poly strings are too hard on the arm, hurting my elbow, hurting my wrist, hurting my shoulder, that most of the companies are looking at softening up that polyester string. So the first strings that came out a couple of years ago now actually was this multi-mono technology, right? It's supposed to play like a poly, but actually made of non-poly. So I actually recommend this to a lot of people who are afraid of tennis elbow or any type of arm problems, who want the poly type of feel, but not the poly type of harshness. So Element, and then obviously Hyper G and regular, right? They even brought it out in a soft so that they could, help protect your arm even more. So softer, right? I mean, the story of all this stuff is just softer. Polytor Rev, which is one of my favorite strings, softer, right? And even Babolat's attempt, right? The RPM spin power, right? So all these are softer strings. And that's the direction that poly unpoly strings are heading towards. More protective of the arm, easier feel is what these are going to give you. Unfortunately, what we've seen in the string is that the loss of tension is pretty quick though. So I'm guessing that they're going to try to find a balance in the two, something that's easy on the arm yet tries to hold tension a little longer. They're definitely trying though, but this is definitely the emerging market. Softer polys. Okay? Let me know if you guys want to see something else on the market, because I feel like an emerging market should really be pre-strung, high-level tennis rackets. I would like to see actually every one of these rackets be offered strung, just because there are less and less stringers out there, and more people want to pick up a racket and play with it, like immediately. So, like, I want to see a pre-strung $250 to $300 racket, at least the option of it. For those people who kind of just want a Babolat Pure Drive or an Arrow or a Clash that they could just pull off the shelf without having somebody to string it first. Because, there's not that many stringers around right now, is what everybody's been telling me. So at least put it upon the manufacturer to get some strung and give the customer the option to take it immediately and play, instead of having to settle for a lesser grade racket, right? Do you agree with me? I know some of you who are very particular about your strings won't, but I feel like at least half or more of the population would rather just grab a racket and play rather than have to wait. That's what I see as an emerging market. All right. Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.